Three, two, one. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Club at the End of This World. I'm Jamin, your host, and welcome to everyone on the call, and welcome to everyone who watches the recording of this. This is a very open forum, and we're going to discuss a number of things, including possible name change to the program. But first, we're going to start with introductions, with emphasis on those who haven't introduced themselves on the Social Club before. So if you'd like to give an introduction or an update, please raise your hand, and I'll put you in the queue. And in general, if you want to get in the queue, you can always type your name into the chat window like I'm doing right now. Okay. So Anne's going to give an update. That's awesome. Adam. Let's see. So why don't we start with Anne? Take it away, Anne.
Okay, good afternoon. This is Ann Mitchell. I'm in Delray Beach, South Florida. And I just wanted to give a quick update because last week we had so much fun talking about, actually I'm not sure even which call it was on, but anyway, talking about the climate strikes that were coming up and making posters and educating people about SRM, and it was really exciting. And so I signed up, RSVP'd for a climate strike protest in Boca Raton. And on Thursday, I got a notice back that it had been canceled due to a lack of attendance. So I looked up another site, which was Delray Beach, which is where I live. I was all excited. There was no RSVP, but there was a contact person. So I emailed her just to make sure it was still on and whatever. Never heard back, but those were both at noon. And my husband works, and so he wanted to go. So we went to Delray Beach at noon, and not only was there no protest, there was no permit for a protest. And these were online, you know, they were all ready. So then I found in West Palm Beach, there was a protest at 4:30, and that's about a 40-minute drive north of us. So we decided we were going. We got the signs. We want to do this. We've been disappointed. We're going to go. But we couldn't get there right at 4:30 because of work and traffic. We got there at about 4:50, and there was no one there. And we saw one other guy who was holding this painting. And so we walked up to him and said, "Are you here for the climate strike?" And he was like, "Yes, where is everybody?" And we, of course, didn't know. And he was trying to contact the organizer. And so we decided we were just going to do our own 3-person little thing. So we walked around. It was in this big square in West Palm Beach, and with restaurants and stores all around. And, you know, a fair number of people were there. So we walked around, and we did have some good conversation with some folks, and some very weird conversation about chemtrails. That was fascinating. And then the security people came and said that the permit was from 4:30 to 5:30, that there actually was a protest. There were 25 kids, and we don't look like kids, so they were a little confused about why we were there. And we said, well, you know, we're supporting the kids because we really hope that there will be a planet, or, you know, human life and other life on the planet in the future. But anyway, they told us that we could not walk around and do what we were doing, and that it was past, at that point, it was past 5:30, and the permit was from 4:30 to 5:30. And apparently 25 like teenagers showed up at 4:30, and they did a little thing, and then they marched someplace else. But none of that was online. You know, it didn't say any of that, so we didn't know that. So we got to do something, but we also had a fair amount of conversation about where is the panic in South Florida. These are all coastal communities. Where are the people who are concerned about this? So the guy that we met, his name is Vincent, and Vincent is 25, so he's young. Born and bred here. And he said, people are just into themselves. Now, I just moved here 2.5 months ago, so I don't know. But I have to tell you that it kind of put me in a funk for the weekend, that this looked like a big deal, that December 6th was going to be a lot of work was going to be done on climate change and bringing this issue to the public. And then in 3 communities in South Florida, there was very, very little interest. So anyway, I'm getting back, I've got our posters up and I saw everybody else's posters, and I'm happy that we went, and I'm happy that we talked to the people that we did, but it was just kind of a bummer. So that's my update. Thank you.
Fascinating, Anne. Just incredible. And thank you so much for going out and doing it and participating. And this gets to kind of the heart of what we're going to be talking about a bit later, as to what is our strategy and how can we save life on Earth in the face of so much apathy and so much business as usual. So really great update. Thank you for that. And we are here to lift your spirits per Dharmendra's wonderful exercise a few minutes back. So please just really nourish yourself in our collective embrace and in the community of the collective here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Next, we've got Benjamin, followed by, we've got Adam, followed by Benjamin, followed by Myles. Take it away, Adam.
Oh, hey, Jamin and everybody. Nice to be on here. Yeah, I'm Adam Soul, the No Money Guy, and I have a website, aworldwithoutmoney.org, and the YouTube channel, A World Without Money. And I'm just here to help talk about how we can solutions. So that's why I'm here. Thanks.
Beautiful, Adam. Thank you. Great to have you here. All right, next up is Benjamin, followed by Myles. Take it away, Benjamin.
Hey there, everybody. Benjamin and Suzanne here. I'm sorry to hear about your weekend, Dan. We had, I don't know if it was a negative experience, but we ended up going to the Portland area climate strike with our signs saying vegan reflection. And there were probably, I think there was maybe 500 kids there. It was a pretty big strike. It was awesome. But they didn't really want to talk. And we are new at this, so, we definitely have room to improve. And I think that we would change our signs in the future to actually, especially for a kid to approach us without any context. I'm not so sure. I don't know. We'll have to talk about what to put on our signs, and we'll talk about all this in the future. But we didn't end up talking to anybody except one person who was vegan at the very end of the march, but it was still a pretty solid turnout and a lot of amazing kids, all coming together for this.
That is fascinating. 500 people, and people didn't want to talk, right? So we'll get to that part of it, the talking part. Pretty important, I would say, for our species to come together anyway. That's how we coordinate and cooperate and whatnot, is through conversation. So more on that in a little bit. We've got Myles up next, and then I want to invite Jim to share. If you'd like to share, Jim, take it away, Myles.
Thank you, Jamin. Hello, everyone. My name's Myles Flegg. I'm up here in Canada, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, also known by the Niitsitapi name of Mohkinstis, meaning elbow, because we're at the confluence of the Elbow River and the Bow River. I'd like to introduce myself talking about the meditation we did with Dharmendra and what, what's nipping at my heels, what am I being pressured by? And I'd just like to share briefly about that. So I've been very concerned about business as usual as well, for my own personal reasons, for my experience in corporate Canada, which is not much different than corporate America. And so, what is ailing our planet? What is ailing me personally, this business as usual? And of course, we see the planet falling apart, and nobody's really not many are taking it that seriously. So, I've been trying to figure out what am I going to do in the home stretch, because I'm soon to be 60 years old. And it's like, okay, I made a pledge to my daughter that I wouldn't tolerate the destruction of the oceans. And I've now found out that that's much more complicated than overfishing and plastic debris floating around in the ocean, right? As we all are now knowing. So I've been trying to, ever since about 5 years ago, I would say, when I listened to your very own Ralph Nader on his Ralph Nader Radio Hour, he said, well, here's something concerning you. Write the president, with your concerns, make it an open letter. I thought, okay, well, there's a thought. I should do that too, but I don't have a president in Canada. We have a prime minister who's basically the chairman of the board in a sense. The head of state is actually Queen Elizabeth. She also has the title Queen of Canada. And we know some of a lot of what's going on there too. It affects everybody. With this Jeffrey Epstein, it's a serious issue related to our crown, and you're not immune to it either. You got your Bill Clinton, your president back down there has got ties to Jeffrey Epstein, but there's all this stuff going on, right? And so the concern is, well, what the heck is ailing us spiritually, in a sense, when you get right down to it? So the challenge I'm having is to get this open letter that I've been talking about. And at the moment, it's like really tense, because my wife is saying, I'm waiting all this time, and expletives. She doesn't normally use expletives, but I find myself probably like some of you. You're just a paper thickness away from sobbing and tears, right? Because there's every day things are changing, right? So this letter, I just want to update. I got this certification here for the climate healers, and I just became vegan. So now that's a big thing to weave into this, because this is a huge part of the solution. So when it comes to getting the message to people, this strategy of the open letter, I'm planning on using this sign and having my open letter available when I go down to Friday for Futures Vegan Reflection Climate Strike Action, and offering this open letter to people. And as I said, that's why I won't be on this call for very long, because I need to get on with it, right? But I guess everybody probably feels this stress and anxiety, which we don't understand why we're the only ones that really feel this. Well, we're not the only ones. The youth, the young people certainly do. That's why they show up for those strikes. Thank you.
Beautiful, Myles. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Myles. That was a much more elegant way of saying what I was trying to say. Thanks.
Well, we will address business as usual head on when we get to the agenda. Still with introductions. Jim, if you'd like to jump in, please do so.
Yeah, my name's Jim McGreen, and I've been involved in climate for 30 years, and I guess what I do is sort of follow and promote different solutions and get active in those solutions. And I've worked on EVs in the 90s, and political I guess climate action in the recent histories, like mostly California, law. It's the group's called the Center for Climate Protection, now the Climate Center, and I've been on the board there for 13 or 14 years. And my latest passion has been an economic shift that'll directly support climate mitigation, and it's a central bank policy, and that's called the living systems economy. So it's at livingsystemeseconomy.org, and that's a new proposal that's I think it's the best thing I've ever seen. It's given me a lot of hope because it restructures part of the economy to direct restoration, to planetary restoration, with a new kind of currency. And new currencies are pretty recognizable now through Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, but this is a central bank policy that could do it. And it looks like that everyone would be rewarded along the way, and that makes it a very practical, and it's not completely apolitical, but I kind of call it conflictless, because there's no reason to have a conflict with it, because if you don't want to earn the new currency, you don't have to. So what it presents is a new opportunity and a new type of investment for mostly for pension funds, because it has a very long-term outlook on the return of this currency. So it's a fascinating, it sounds complex, but mostly because it's so new. It's a very new concept for humanity to have what's called a dual economic system, the present economic system and a parallel system. That and I've been talking to Jamin about solar radiation management, and it's one of the areas that I follow. There's a organization called ICE 911 in the Bay Area. Leslie Fields is the woman who runs it. She's been doing experiments and writing papers on a pretty nice solution that looks like it could be deployed in the Arctic and any place that has ice, and it's a benign, clever solution. So I'm fascinated by all this stuff, and I stay on top of most things to mostly so I can have some hope in the future, because we've got to do everything we can, and we are in an emergency, and human beings are who they are, and you can kind of get them to show up for things. I mean, everybody wants to do the right thing, but if the structure kind of requires, or the path of least resistance is business as usual, then that's what will happen. Almost no matter what you want to do, people still get up and go to work, or they put gas in their car. So the economic solution to that, I think, is coming, and anything we can do to get that understood and evaluated would be important, I think. So that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jim. And would you be good enough to repeat the name of that website so I can type it into the chat?
Sure, great. It's livingsystemeseconomy.org.
Okay, I put it in the chat there.
Okay.
Great, thank you for that. And also, I'll type in ice911.org, which I found out about last week from you, and got so excited that I contacted the folks in charge, and now we've got some email exchange going on, and I've sent them a bunch of information about what we're working on as regards SRM, which we'll get to in the agenda. Alrighty, does anyone else want to give a little update or introduction? Never any pressure to do so. Just wanted to create this space for it. Alrighty. So let's get to, oh yeah, go ahead, Ray, jump in, please.
So Ray wants me to give an introduction, so I'll just give a really brief introduction. My name is Kelly. I'm Ray's partner, and the reason why he's involved in all this, because I went vegan first and convinced him that was the right way to live. But then he introduced me to Silas. She went in a completely sort of different direction when it comes to what motivated him to be vegan. I mean, at the core of it was the ethical reasons, but I kind of stayed in that with my activism. And when he went vegan after seeing Cowspiracy, he went into the whole climate aspect, which I didn't even really factor in. I didn't even think about it when I went vegan. I went vegan because I saw a poster about the ethics of being vegan. So Ray is the one that introduced me to Sailesh, and he's been a dear friend of ours for the past 4 or 5 years. And I've obviously been following him, everything that he's been doing, and so I work full time at home in the corporate environment, so I'm not as involved in climate or vegan related issues as much as I would like. But I'm just down the hall from him, so I can hear everything. So I pretty much feel like I'm involved, even if I'm not. But like for me personally, I'm actually I'm a vegan caterer. So we do a lot of outreach in the animal community, but we've also taken on like various initiatives. Like we've gone to like climate film festivals where the majority of people that are there are not vegan, and we've just shown up with vegan food and just kind of placed it down and just let people try it, and and just been very respectful, and so that's kind of been our activism for the last few years as well, and that's where I personally, for myself, feel I'm the best version of myself, because you probably won't hear me talking a lot because I am very, very pessimistic about everything. I think we're doomed. I think we're screwed, and not much convinces me otherwise. So the odd time, really the only time I get really optimistic is when Sailesh is here visiting us. Like Sailesh just brings that to you. How can you not? I mean, it's Sailesh, right? But when then Sailesh goes, and I go back into my my negative state, unfortunately. But I'm trying, really, really trying to be optimistic, and Ray definitely is always optimistic. He's a realist, but he's also optimistic, and so but I'm going to try to be involved as much as possible to the extent that I can, and to the extent where I think I feel that I have the most value to all these amazing initiatives that I'm seeing in base camp, and that just seeing that itself, when Ray came on board, just seeing all that, definitely, I will say that definitely helped. Because I know in Toronto, we've been very, very frustrated because after Ray saw Cowspiracy and after he went vegan, we actually did get really involved in, there was a group here called Climate Vegan. And we kind of, both of us, just put our efforts behind that, and nobody would ever show up. It's like everyone would talk about the environment, and you kind of know high level that, the way that we eat is contributing to the environment. But if there was something else going on, like a vigil or something animal rights related, they would always go to that, right? So it was really frustrating for us because, people, even the vegan community, didn't really take the climate aspect serious. So it's really great that Ray has found this community that is so passionate about the climate. It's definitely reinvigorated him, and definitely is me to an extent as well. Yeah, that's me.
And for the Vegan World 2026 base camp, Kelly inspired me to create the Normalizing Vegan Food Task Force, because there was 24 groups, and there wasn't any that were specifically about food. So she was the inspiration for that. And it seems to have resonated with people. There's almost 20 people that have signed up for it. And that's our cat, Gandalf the Grey, squawking in the background if it's picking up on the microphone.
Well, Gandalf certainly agrees with you, Ray. And I just wanted to affirm that no cats were hurt in the address.
He doesn't know how loud his voice has become.
Beautiful.
I'd just like to tell a little quick story for Kelly, because she said Dr. Rao brings her optimism. So just, was it yesterday or the day before? I can put the link into the chat, but I'm joining in a group that I haven't been a participant of for quite some time, a Zoom meeting, and it's called For the Good of the Whole. And they were talking about, what can we do? It's a sort of a get together and meditate kind of a gathering to talk about what are we getting from the field, sort of very much along with Dharmendra's passion. And anyway, so I'm thinking, well, I should join in on this call. They kept sending me invites. And I thought, well, I'm going to bring veganism into the mix for them. And wouldn't you know it, I start talking about Dr. Rao, and the person, Julie Kroll of Nebraska, who had actually organized this particular session and chose the theme, it was Dr. Rao that had inspired her. So Dr. Rao was already in the house before I even thought I had to bring him there. So it's getting around.
Beautiful. And speaking of the house, what an amazing house we have here today. Look at all you wonderful people. This gives me hope, Kelly, speaking of hopelessness, all of us being together. And anyway, really excited to talk more about that. Any other intros or updates before we get into the agenda?
Just real quick, I'll say that Amira, who was a regular part of this, is really getting hit hard with her asthma. She's where we live, she's highly allergic, and her asthma sometimes gets acute, and her medicine doesn't work so well anymore, and she doesn't go to doctors because they're useless. Anyway, so, I mean, we get whatever she needs, we go to Mexico and get, because we can afford it down there, because it's ridiculous. We refuse to pay the doctors here. And anyway, so she's just going through a very tough, she's been in bed for a few days. Seems like she's going to start coming back today, but she goes through periods where it's really rough for her. And we struggle with that. And but that's kind of nice. Usually I like to lift everybody's spirits, but I also like to be real and just let everybody know about what's really going on too. And hope that gets into everybody's heart, because I know everybody appreciates what she has to say in her presence, but she's been unable to attend for a while because it just takes too much of her energy. I mean, but hopefully she's coming back now. We'll see. But I just want to let everybody know, because obviously she's been missing for a while, and she was really there for a bit. And anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. And I just hope everybody keeps her in their hearts, and because we are all connected, and that's all. And that's it. I will continue to do my lifting job as usual in the future, but I do like to let people know what's going on too. So, and she's an incredible voice for the animals too, voice for the voiceless, with her All About Vegan Facebook page. She's got thousands of followers, and she even expressed it to them. And she even got feedback from Vegan Evan's mom, who said, "We'll get you out of Arizona if you want to go," because she's friends with pretty much everybody out there that's in the vegan world. That's anybody, and she's like, no, she's too proud, because she comes from a very high-class Hollywood family background, but she disowned all that, and she just doesn't want anything to do with that. She wants to be a voice for the voiceless, for the animals, and she's the one that got me into veganism. We actually kind of went together, but she really pushed it, and then we went to a lot of animal liberation marches and disruptions and different things like that. And anyway, so just to give the whole picture and just introduce her a little bit too, since she hasn't been here for a while. and her background. She's a tireless every day, day in and day out. She's working with her all about vegan. That's all she does when she can. So anyway.
Sorry to hear that, Demendra. She's
Yeah.
in our thoughts.
Yeah. Put her in your hearts too, and in your belly, because we're all connected in all those places, and she needs all of it. If you don't mind.
Absolutely. I'm sure I speak for all of us. Please give her our love and prayers and best wishes. And
Yeah.
We're here for her and for both.
Yeah. Mm.
Thank you, Derminder.
Yeah. Thank you.
Jamin.
Yes, Fred, jump on in.
Okay. I just wanted to ask Dermindra a little bit more about the meditation aspect of this. I would like to participate in that.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'm going to close my door.
I don't know how to do that.
We did a meditation before recording. So
oh, okay.
Yeah, just so if you just show up on time next time, you'll be a part of that.
Oh, so that's when the meditation is happening. Is before the. Okay.
It actually just ended when you came in. But what
so
I like.
Half an hour.
Well, it's okay. What you weren't. It wasn't your moment. Everything works, and everybody gets what they need to get when they need to get it. You know that. But so the thing I want to say though, also, Jamin, maybe the next time we start a meeting, maybe we can open it up just a hair. I know we have a lot of things we like to cover, so to where everybody can, like I do with you and the other guys that I've done it with, where maybe everybody can also offer a bit of their own of each one, just for a moment, just do the shadow, the gift, and the sit-up for each person like we've done, because it really gets everybody a much stronger taste of it too. Because I'm getting the feeling that people would like not just to be led, but also would like to be lead their own process once they see how it's done, Because I know several of us here have done it, but that's really the strongest way to do it. And then it expands from 5 minutes to maybe a half hour, but I don't see that as a whole lot of time in a 3 or 4 hour meeting, right? I mean, if you feel it's appropriate, I'm not gonna, push anything, but I think it's really important that we start proving what collective intelligence is instead of just talking about it or just using it in mundane things. Collective intelligence includes the entire spectrum of who we are. So that includes the deeper stuff too, and it all needs to be integrated and become normal. So we just start to normalize higher consciousness. Hey, there, I created a new concept. Let's normalize higher consciousness. Jeez, who'd ever thought? Anyway, okay, so that's enough said for now.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dharmendra. And along those lines, would anyone like to share based on the meditation? And Dharmendra, feel free to lead us in that.
Since you want to take that up right now, yeah, is there anybody? Myles, you had some really neat stuff to share the other day. I don't know if anything hit you in that way. I'll just share for myself because I always don't expect anybody to share unless they've got an example to start with. And for me, what was going on with the shadow was the searing intensity of pain and sadness in my heart about Amira, because I've known her 47 years. We've been married 20. She's really my other half. And, it is very sad, but I mean, there's a sweetness to it too, because I don't resist it. I don't fight it. But it does bring tears at times. And it is kind of, powerful. But then as I stepped into my gift, I took all of you into my heart, and I saw that we have an incredible process here, and no matter who manages to stay here on this plane and who moves on, we're all always going to be connected, whether we're on this plane or not. And that kind of shifted me into what we're all doing here, and it's all about one thing, which is to stop the violence and to heal the planet. And as I stepped into that, then I opened up to the higher, and always I immediately get in touch with some kind of source energy, and sometimes there's vision and voice, and but most of the time there's just sensation for me, and it just gives me a sense of the living presence of I guess you could call it essence, that which is unconditioned in all of us, that gives us the force of life and the capacity to be. And then I sense that in everybody, and I don't really sense any difference in any of us anymore at that point. Although each of you are distinct and unique as you are, it doesn't smear you out. It just makes you stand out more strongly. And then it allows me to naturally connect with each one of you without nervousness or a sense of separation, because I feel one with everybody. And I was naturally, as a kid, very shy. But when I work with this process, and after, 4 decades of meditation, it somehow has brought me to a point where all that stuff is meaningless when it comes to being part of a collective where each of us have a unique and individual gift to share and bring to the table, whatever it is. And the only thing we need to do is stand up and own that, and then walk into this space that we're creating and start contributing. So that's an example of how you can just share it, not just regurgitating what happened to you, but also getting back into it and coming from that place too. So that's, for example, if anybody else wants to step into that and bring something out that happened to you during the intro.
Beautiful there, Mendra. Thank you. What I got is just, I just feel like I was diagnosed hyperactive as a kid, and my parents wouldn't let me eat sugar. And I just felt this hyperactive energy and optimism and excitement to make this collective intelligence happen, like we're making it happen right here, right now, and nurture its exponential growth. And we'll get more into that. But I just really have this hyperactive excitement and, tension in a good way. Evan, welcome. And feel free to jump in or introduce yourself if you wish.
I'll just add, with respect to sharing about Dharmendra's spiritual meditation that primes us on some of these calls. I just posted for the good of the whole event that I was referring to, that Dr. Rao was actually it turned out to be the inspiration for this session, even before I brought veganism to the table. So I know it's a big ask for people to watch something, but if you are interested, it's there. And one of the things I think Dharmendra, he'll recognize what these people are doing, because they're more in tune with what he's talking about than I am. Anyway, I offer that for everybody. I think it also expresses some of where I'm coming from.
And so, Jamin, after you did the hyperactive, and how did that shift into the gift and then into the higher power for you, since you opened that?
Yeah. Well, just I think the gift shifted into the optimism and determination, right? From tension and frustration to optimism and determination. So that's where I'm at right now. And feel free to ask more questions. I kind of feel like a white belt in your dojo.
Oh, no, it's okay. One thing I do want to say, though, with everybody here is that this process that I'm doing with the 3 treasures is, by the way, just the initial introduction into essence. There's much more than just this process. So please realize that when we're working with the shadow, a gift, and a siddha, it's a way to start to get in touch with the fact that we are a spectrum of consciousness, and that we function on many different levels, contrary to how we've been dumbed down by everything around us to not even be aware that that's even possible or even exists in any way whatsoever. So once this opens more, it's going, and we start to become more familiar with that spectrum of consciousness and become more fluid with it, and step into deeper stages of how to utilize this in practical ways to create the solutions we're looking for in the world right now, which will happen. And then as we look back on it, we'll realize that the best way to introduce people to this kind of thing is gently, by getting them in touch with what's bugging them, and then helping them and supporting them to surround that with love and open it, and then see what's there, see what the message is, and start to try and take some courage to step into something new, because that's what you're really doing in the beginning. But once we're really in the new and we're really creating that, solution club, at the beginning of a new world, hint, hint, then something else, and we'll have to earn that, obviously, because had I mentioned it and everybody would have went, yep, it's already done, then we would have been much further than we are right now. So obviously we have to take each step one step at a time too, and be realistic. We've all got things and challenges we have to, deal with. I mean, I'm a perfect example of a guy who's profoundly awake, yet in the material world and with the suffering going on with my wife, I'm very challenged. So nobody's perfect. So we all bring different skills and different gifts to the table. And, my primary focus is inspiration, and then eventual co-creation as, radically intelligent beings. But in the beginning, it's just to inspire people to take a jump. And even if it seems a little awkward, to just share what happened to you in the experience. Even if, once you start it though, you'll see, once you jump in the water, you'll figure it out. How to share it, how to express it. So I just wanted to add that too. So
Beautiful. Thanks, Dharmendra. Yes, Fred, and you're on mute. You're still on mute, Fred. We're pretty good at lip reading, but I think some of us have.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah. So I don't know what the three treasures are that you've spoken about, because I missed the introduction. So I'm curious what they are, unless it's going to take up a half an hour of your
it'll take 1 minute. Since
Okay.
you asked, I will tell you, they're the shadow, which the gift, and the siddha. So, and like I said, this is just the initial initiatory process of vegan synergy meditation. It has many other stages and levels that get much more savvy and radical as we go along. Not that we're not savvy and radical now, just by stepping into this, we're already savvy and radical to even be able to pick it up. But the shadow is basically what's bugging you, what your issue is right now. But in terms of facing the world and really wanting to make a difference and finding a lot of, impedance against that. And then instead of trying to fix it just at the gift level, we embrace it into our heart with love. And we just love that place in ourselves and realize that we're very challenged in that place. But what it needs is love, not criticism, and not all the voices that we got from around us that shut us down there. And so that's when we open to that gift, then once we're feeling okay with that, we ask for a little help from above, from the higher frequency of consciousness. Now, a lot of that comes through what I've done in my life and the years I've spent meditating, that I can actually bring that through without being like an unconscious channel. I'm a fully conscious guide when I'm doing it, as opposed to an unconscious channel like a Seth or something. I don't do that. I can bring that through, but not go unconscious. So when I do that, and I do it consciously as a guide, then everybody else slowly gets immersed into how to do that too, because I'm not taking on the position of a guru. I'm taking on the position of a fellow traveler guide, that eventually everybody can be, co-players in this and become, savvy guides to the process, because we have to pass it on to others. So it's more, that's why I call it an accelerated collective evolution, because that's really what it is. And it's something I've been working on for 26 years when it just opened to me. And, you could say my third eye opened or whatever. I don't really care how you say it, but I was introduced to higher consciousness at that point, and I've been able to do it ever since. So, so that's what the third stage is about, getting clear about intent. It's like once your gift is open, and then you ask for, a clear vision from the higher about what is my true intent here. Once you get a hold of that, and then it starts to have an impact on your being. And it starts to guide you subtly, maybe not so obviously in the beginning. And that's why the third step, sometimes you just have to trust when we step into the deeper nature and ask for help.
That's the siddha?
That's the siddha. Very good. Yes, that's the siddha. The miraculous ability. That's the way I like to say it. The traditional term for it is different, but I'm updating everything. I create my own terms that are user-friendly to now, to the modern world, because I've studied, after I had all this authentic awakening, went back and studied all the wisdom traditions so I could get the language, and then take the language from the old, stale, dead, tradition bound, fixated way, and bring it into life in the modern, discourse. in a way we can all understand and relate to through our own experience, instead of trying to become a, copycat of something that's been thousands of years old, which isn't going to work for us, So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Armendra. All righty. I noticed Anne's had her hand up for a bit, unless that was from before. No, I think, yeah. No, Anne, please take it away.
Yep. So this is an example that builds on both the mindfulness session and my update. So after being bummed out over the lack of energy around the climate strikes on Friday, and this may not be the best example, please don't judge me, but my husband and I still watch football. And we have lots of discussions about, the fact that it's violent and we probably shouldn't, but anyway, we do. So we're at a local restaurant bar.
So do I.
Oh, thank you. To watch our Indianapolis Colts.
Would you guys please leave the meeting? We don't allow football watchers.
Right.
Here. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So we're at this restaurant bar, and we like this particular place because they actually have a Just Egg Impossible Meat Scramble on their menu, right? So this is really cool. So we order our food. We're watching this game, and this place is big. I don't know how big. I didn't count the people, but I'm guessing 100 to 150 people are there. Lots of TVs, 6 different games playing, lots of energy, right? And I'm sitting there, and I look at my husband and I say, okay, so I'm sitting here in a complete and utter panic because we are wasting time watching this football game while the planet is being destroyed, and we can't get people to show up to learn about that. But here's 150 people, and by the way, we're the only ones not eating the animals in this place. I mean, there were huge numbers of dead animals in this place, right? We're buying the vegan thing, trying to get them to do more of that. And I mean, he, bless his soul, he looks at me, he's like, do you want to go home and get our signs and come back? And, and I'm like, I don't know. But so I'm not a marketing person. I've never worked in the marketing sphere. I've never, so when we're talking about solutions, we're talking about action, part of what it is I want to work on is how do we manage to get, and that was one little place, right? How do we manage to get, I don't know, hundreds of thousands or millions of people to show up on Sundays to watch football games and spend lots of money on food and drink and take a lot of time to do that. And we can't seem to get people to show up to learn something that will guarantee they can watch a football game in 10 years, right? Like I just don't, so, that thing nipping at my, so that's part of what I know I don't make sense a lot of the time.
You're making beautiful sense, Anne. My goodness.
Yes, Anne, don't put yourself down. You're a wonderful presenter.
Yeah, and you're speaking right to the point. So really, I mean, I'll be real straight with you and quit playing that game with yourself. You rock it. You speak right to the point, and you're real and you're grounded. I'm going to start telling people the good stuff too. I'm not, if somebody's giving themselves a hard time, I'm going to just say, knock it off. And then if you continue, you can tell me to go take a flying leap. Hey, then I'll never bug you again. But if you really want to stop doing that and own what you're saying, because all of us can relate to it. I know, because I can see it in everybody's face. Just keep going, man. You rock.
Thank you. It's just, I want the solution. So let's change the name of the group, right?
Let's do it. The Solution Club at the beginning of the new world.
Woo! Woo! And yet I don't have the solution. We have to, I mean, this just does not make sense.
Hey, Anne, can I jump in real quick on that one?
Yeah.
We have to become the solution first. Then we can bring it. If we're not the solution, then we're going to try and find something that we don't know anything about. That's why I do what I do, because I found the solution in me. I know what it is. I'm connected to all of it. Whether all this works or not, I mean, to be absolutely honest with you, it doesn't matter. Because once you found the solution in yourself, you're going to spread good. And if it can't go here, it'll go somewhere else. I mean, you can't force it. So that's my point. My point is just I want to share with everybody how to find the solution in themselves and be the freaking solution. And then you're not going to look for a solution outside. You're gonna be the solution, and who's interested in that is going to be attracted to you, like bees to honey. I mean, it's just a no-brainer at that point. Yeah, if anybody's got a better idea, let me know.
Brilliant. Well, speaking of better ideas, we've got an agenda we'd like to share, and also I just wanted to comment that what we're doing here, introductions and meditation and all this sharing, this is all part of us, getting connected as a collective, right? And it's all time very well spent. And so that's why this is long format. Look, it took us, an hour and a half just to kind of, the first 15, 20 minutes, we're kind of having breakfast and coffee and people are jumping in and we're saying hi and stuff like that. But it's taken us an hour and a half to get to this point, and
time well spent.
Time well spent, absolutely. Alrighty. So if you want to jump in and say anything at any time, please put your name in the queue by just typing your first name into the chat window. And if you don't know how to do that, or don't want to do that, or can't do that, just raise your hand, wave, or even just unmute your microphone and say, "Hey, Jamin, stick me in the queue," and that's totally fine as well. And the best time to do that is in between speakers. So like now, as opposed to when Ann was talking. And any questions, just jump in with questions or comments. So late last night, Nolan and I wrote up an agenda, which I'll read now. Nolan and I, first, there's 4 points or 5. First one, Nolan and I will provide a concise overview and update on collective intelligence. And by the way, I want to open that up to Benjamin and Suzanne and Dharmendra and Evan and all those who are, deeply involved in this collective intelligence thing. Adam, Myles. Anyway, I was just, since Nolan and I wrote it, we just kind of put that in there. A concise overview and update on collective intelligence. The key to making SRM happen at a planetary scale so that we can cool our planet in time to save life on Earth. So let me just give a brief little context before I go further into the agenda. There's this trifecta that we collectively have come up with as kind of the 3 legs of the stool, if you will, to saving life on Earth. Veganism, collective intelligence, SRM, solar radiation management. 1, 2, 3. And just to be clear, you don't have to be vegan to be a part of this social club. Everyone is welcome. We will probably gently encourage you to become vegan, but it's not like a judgment thing. It's not like, oh my goodness, Ann watches football, therefore she's bad. You're not vegan, therefore you're bad, etc. It's not like that. Anyway, so with that as context, anyway, so the first point is collective intelligence. We'll get to that. From there, I propose that Nolan, Benjamin, Suzanne, and I lead an open conversation about how to accelerate the evolution of collective intelligence. The platform, the community, the culture. And again, everyone's welcome to be a part of that. Dharmendra came up with the name Accelerated Collective Evolution, which is kind of a broader thing than just collective intelligence. So please jump in, everyone, for that conversation. Third point, next, let's envision how we will use collective intelligence to rapidly evolve SRM, solar radiation management, from cultural media, from the perspectives of culture, media, memes, social media, PR, scientific, engineering, political, etc. From all those standpoints, from all those perspectives. Just to say a little bit more about SRM, SRM is the only way to cool the planet in time. Period, full stop. It doesn't get to the roots of the problem. The roots of the problem are greenhouse gases. And the roots of that, the majority of the roots of that are animal agriculture, right? So if you want to get to the roots aren't about SRM. The roots are about animal agriculture and other aspects of our hyper-destructive civilization. So, just like when the fire department shows up with hoses to hose down a house where there are kids in the attic and all that who would die of asphyxiation otherwise, the root of the problem isn't water. Water didn't cause the fire. Matches caused the fire. Right? But just like matches aren't the solution to putting out the fire of the house, water is. It turns out that decarbonization is not the key to cooling our planet in time, putting out the fire that's besieging Mother Earth. SRM is. So problem and solution are two different things. And and in terms of the solution, SRM is the short-term solution, the short-term solution. Full stop. There's nothing else that can do it in time other than SRM. Having said that, once we put out the fire, then we can take the kids to the, matches counselor and teach the kids not to play with matches again so that we don't, start another fire. What I'm saying in a clumsy way is veganism is really at the heart of the long-term solution, right? But short-term, we got to put out the fire so that we can have children to educate about the long-term solution. You guys follow me? I think people do. If not, just jump in. And looks like, is that my Uncle Frank dialing in? Is that you?
Yes.
Hey, Uncle Frank, welcome. All right.
All right. I guess I finally got through.
Hey, you're in perfect time, Uncle Frank. Perfect time. This is Dr. Frank Shively, renowned particle physicist. He was on the team of Dr. Luis Alvarez that discovered a whole bunch of particles in the periodic table back in the 60s. His work is referenced in 2 separate Nobel Prizes in physics. So we are in the presence of greatness. And so when I tell you that SRM is the only way to cool the planet, I've got Uncle Frank to back me up on that. So only way to cool the planet in time in the short term. And then, like I said, we've got long-term therapy that we need. We all need to go vegan. We need to radically transform our economy, our entire set of living arrangements. But let's first put out the fire so that we can have a house and have children to work on going forward long-term. The 4th bullet point, and Uncle Frank, we're just going over the agenda now, so you're kind of in perfect time. The fourth bullet point is building on the preceding. Let's then talk about evolving the social club itself from social club to solution club with a very intentional focus on collective intelligence and SRM. And the only reason I don't throw in veganism there is to not isolate the non-vegans. Non-vegans welcome, and et cetera. And then I'll just read the rest of the email that I wrote, pretty brief. The urgency of abrupt climate change dictates that we need to be extremely smart and efficient and effective about how we leverage our time together going forward. This with a nod to our meeting of last week, where we sometimes go off into these tangents that are not about the solution, right? Right now, we need to be all about getting the fire trucks here, getting the hoses connected to the fire plugs, and putting out the fire, right? We simply don't have time to not talk about that right now. Once the fire's out, okay, fine, take a deep breath and let's talk about whatever else we want to talk about. But we, right here, look around you, look at all the other faces. Look at Fred, who's almost falling asleep. Look at Evan, who's looking so hot and sexy over there. Look at Ray and Kelly, these lovebirds, right? Look at Benjamin and Suzanne. Look at this character here, Nolan, my awesome buddy, who is up here on Whidbey Island with me. We are the volunteer fire department. Hey, thanks for waking up, Fred. We are the beginning of the volunteer fire department. Look at Dharmendra, looking so badass. Look around you. We are the volunteer fire department, and we need to grow and grow and grow by orders of magnitude to put out this fire, okay? And then I write, time may be short, but with rapidly evolving collective intelligence, we can make time stand still and turn time into our ally. More on that in a little bit. Evan, thanks for providing music for us all. Now, are there any questions or comments about the agenda before we dive into point number 1?
James.
Can't
hear Evan's music.
That's probably intentional. Anyway, James, your hand is raised, so jump in, James. Or Jim, rather. Jump in, Jim. I'm reminded of the Rolling Stones song, Jumpin' Jack Flash, it's a gas, gas, gas. Maybe you can play that for us, Evan.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you about the urgency, and the only thing that can work fast enough is solar radiation management, but also that things have to work concurrently, and to have hope on that. It's not just I see solar radiation management is like the medicine that treats the symptoms but doesn't do the cure. The cure is really a lifestyle change for the planet, but the medicine is needed because we push the planetary boundaries so far in one direction that we have to do something to bring it back. That's short term, and has this physical nature to it. So it's there's not one group that's really focused on it, and I think it's good to have somebody that's doing it, because it's got a lot of political and scientific issues. First of all, I think it's illegal everywhere to do it. I mean, as far as conventions of the UN, so it's got to be agreed upon solution, universally agreed upon solution if we do something. And there's so many different ways to doing solar radiation management. And the other big problem is we inadvertently do it because of industrial society and pollution, particularly sulfur products from coal burning. We've already cooled the planet a very substantial amount by accident. If we stop that pollution, we're going to overheat really quickly. Within a few weeks, it's going to be a lot harder. I mean, a lot hotter. So we have all these situations that we find ourselves in, and they're very technical and scientific and political. But the only way to get it out there is to start talking about it, and it really isn't a single group doing that. So I'm happy that somebody's taken that on, and I got to get going. So great meeting you guys, and I hope to join you again.
Great to see you, Jim. Thanks so much for jumping in. Myles also had to jump off, and really appreciate your comments. Couldn't agree more. And beautiful. All righty. Well, we're going to start jumping in with the agenda, and feel free to jump in anytime. I know Adam's got a comment. Adam, take it away.
Oh, hi, everybody. Yeah, I wanted to just make a comment about your key to, your trifecta, the vegan, the collective intelligence, and the SRM. And, also there's the aspect of not using money. Right now, you're trying to come up with these answers, and you're running into a lot of problems, and it seems like if you could just do away with the problems, just in other words, you just come up with the answers, and you forget about the problems of how to not how to deploy them, but that's part of how to do it. But you forget about the financial problems. And so you just come up with a way to solve the solution, and don't worry about the finances. And then you might be able to come up with solutions in that way. And then it boils down to basically the problem. There's just one problem. It's not the problem of solving the issues. It's the problem of coming up with the finances. So somebody else can worry about that. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
No, really good point, Adam. And by the way, we welcome quick interjections even in between people in the queue. Ray is up next in the queue, but I'm just going to interject briefly since following on Adam's good points. Really our main focus is coming up with the actual tangible solutions, not just engineering solutions, but also cultural solutions, political solutions, PR, media, social media, memes, viral 3-minute YouTube videos, and so on, right, to get us all to transform. money, as far as I'm concerned, is a necessary evil. It's currently a necessary evil if you want to get anything done. We want to transform that to be an unnecessary evil that can just die on the vine and fall onto that rich soil behind Ray's head and compost and be part of part of life. But anyway, Adam is kind of the no money master, and and Ray's also got his hands thumbs up, thumbs down. Anyway, Ray, I'm just going to let you talk.
Kelly grazed this side, but we put up a fence to keep her out from grazing this side.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Beautiful.
You had a response.
Okay, Adam, back to you.
Well, I did have a few questions, and one of them was for Adam. Like, one of the things that we're up against is that a lot of solutions, if you just have the solution implemented instantaneously, which most solutions don't, for good or for bad, there are a lot of repercussions about doing good things really, really rapidly. We could, collectively decide to end all subsidy and all programs dedicated to animal agriculture. That would crash our economy, and the human element of our planet would lose those critical elements of civilization, and the massive panic that would ensue would cause people to shift towards that kind of panic that brings about fascist governments, and that tends to be a big impediment for most things. So politics is a barrier for a lot of these, and the economics that we're fighting against that are ignoring our solutions. They're doing so with a arguably good intention. This is one of the reasons why the Sailesh's program is Vegan World 2026, not 2020, because we have to look at everything like a stepping from one canoe that's sinking to another canoe that's not. If you jump, you'll probably end up wet. And I just wanted to share that analogy. And Jim, just before he left, dropped a little bit of a hand grenade and fled. I'm curious to know about he mentioned that it's illegal in every country to use these radical solutions for reflecting radiosity back into space. So I was wondering how much of that political barrier is something that we can look forward to changes in the near future. If it's illegal everywhere, it's because they want to know something about it. And how close are we knowing the things that we need to know? And how much of it is just, bloody-mindedness from the status quo protecting itself?
Hold on. I just want to say I have to go back to work in a couple minutes. So it was really great meeting everyone, and I'll join in the future. But if you see me drop off, I just got to get back to work.
Got it. Totally. Good to know, Kelly.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great to meet you finally. And please keep coming back whenever you can. Alrighty. Adam's got his hand raised. I just want to respond to something Ray said, and then read Myles' parting comment. So regarding political transformation, so when it comes to SRM, solar radiation management, one of the great things about that solution is it's not something that in and of itself requires lifestyle change. I'm not saying that we don't need to change our lifestyles. Quite to the contrary. To get to the roots of these problems, we need radical transformation in lifestyles, diet, living arrangements, economy, money, everything. But what I'm saying is in the very short term, it can unite everybody, including those people watching football games with Ann eating meat, right? I mean, who drove there in their SUV. It doesn't require anyone to change anything. So we can all get together and do this. And one of the things I believe is when we do SRM at a planetary scale, just like when we, put people on the moon and saw the Earth from space and all that, that radically transformed our whole paradigm of who we are and our relationship to the planet and seeing ourselves as a whole, etc. Likewise, I believe that planetary scale SRM will prompt us all to have a radically different perspective of who we are as a species, our relationship to the planet, and, you know, just to put it very simply, yes, we can. Yes, we can solve our problems. We solved the problem of overheating. High five. Once we've done it, boom, we cooled the planet. We're not so inept as we thought we were. And if we can do that, well, what else can we do? Can we all change to a plant-based diet? Yes. Can we transform our living arrangements? Yes. Can we, you know, live in a world without money? Yes, 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 yes. The answer to all these questions suddenly becomes yes, versus no, change is impossible, right? So anyway, I really believe it is sort of like the cornerstone, the linchpin, the key, the first domino, if you will, in the V for Vendetta, you know, series of dominoes that all need to tumble. Thanks, Kelly. You know, but it's got to start somewhere. So, and I believe that to get this first domino to fall over, it's going to take not just, you know, pounding the table and saying, we need SRM, we need SRM. There have been people saying that for decades. But the trifecta of SRM and this beautiful vegan community that you're seeing in front of you, right? And this beautiful collective intelligence that you're seeing in front of you. So basically, we need not just the logic of SRM, but the brilliance of collective intelligence and the love and compassion and unity and commitment of the vegan community to get this first domino called SRM to fall over. So to get SRM to go, we need three things to push it over. One of them, which is SRM itself, the logic of it, the science, the engineering, et cetera, et cetera. But we also need the vegans and we need the collective intelligence.
Well, the overcoming the political barriers to SRM as well. This is what I'm hinting at. The getting together and deciding this is something we need, deciding that it's something that must be legalized, it must be deployed in every country. That's a collective intelligence kind of approach, I'm assuming. That's contrary to the idiocy that's happening right now.
Absolutely, Ray. Absolutely. And so that's why among the list of things, of dimensions across which we need urgently transformation in order to make SRM happen, we need political transformation, right? And I don't know the form of the political transformation that it's going to take. It could take a complete change in regime, a complete change in system, or it could happen within the current system.
And it does strike me as one of those solutions that can happen despite the opposition of industry.
Well,
they oppose most green energy solutions because it means their system disappears. But I know that people like Richard Branson would be interested in that because it means that we can reflect that energy back into space and people can continue to fly in his airline.
Exactly. Not that we want people to continue to fly in his airline, mind you. Quite the contrary. But to my earlier point, it actually doesn't really require anything else to change, right? Fundamentally, in order to do SRM. In fact, because of that, and please, nobody throw rotten tomatoes at the screen when I say what I'm about to say. I'm even thinking about calling up the American Petroleum Institute and saying, hey, why don't y'all consider supporting SRM? Right now, you guys are on the chopping block. Everyone's out for your head. But if you can be the ones who finance, and build some critical support for SRM in this very nascent stage, right? Then you can earn the name Beyond Petroleum. Right now, it's just in name only. BP is a petroleum company, but they call themselves Beyond Petroleum. If you support SRM and the solar thermal power generation that comes with it, you can truly earn that title Beyond Petroleum. Anyway,
it's kind of creating a new paradigm that is more intelligent than the automatic left and right. The politically right is famous for being in lockstep. They don't argue with each other. They don't challenge each other. Somehow the petroleum industry hasn't gone on board this idea that animal agriculture is a big cause and going, oh, it's not us, it's them. This hasn't happened, which is, you kind of revealing how much in lockstep they are, that they have a uniform approach to maintain the status quo, and that's more important than even their profits and their PR. That's, boggles my mind.
Totally, absolutely. And really good points. But the bottom line, just to be super clear, in order to get this domino to fall over called SRM, we need political transformation, cultural transformation. We need the media to get behind it. We need memes. We need social media. We need PR. We need spiritual transformation. And yes, we need veganism, because the vegans are the ones who are basically in the best position to push this, because, for so many reasons that I don't really need to go into right now. But the bottom line is holistic, right? The answer to all these questions is one giant yes. Yes, we need to transform all these things holistically. But even within the holistic, there is a certain sequence to the dominoes falling over. And that's one of the things that's really that's one of the core axes across which we need to optimize in our collective intelligence. In what sequence do we need to do things, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to jump into collective intelligence, the first bullet point in the agenda, as soon as possible. We're almost 2 hours into the meeting, so it'd be nice to get to the agenda at some point before sunset. Adam's got his hand raised, and take it away, Adam.
Yeah, well, it's good that you mentioned collective intelligence, because that's what I wanted to talk about. And there's a whole, it's not just RCI, Radical Collective Intelligence, that's out there. There's a lot of different groups that are working to use AI to save the planet. And so there's a lot of different code writers out there that are developing models for planet, to model the planet and what we would do if things happened. But I wonder if anybody's putting these groups together and maybe saying, well, why don't we have a place where we could come together for all these answers, all these solutions, and model them together. Develop, do code writing. Maybe RCI could do this, do the code writing or whatever, to make a program that puts them all together and analyzes them and says, I don't mean to attack your, I don't know if you've changed this or not, but the thin film reflective materials, for instance, you don't have to cover a million square kilometers or something like, or miles or something like that. Well, this might, if you do that out in the ocean, that might have, you're going to change the reflectivity of the Earth in one area. Now, the Arctic is already used to being reflective, and it's the one that's becoming non-reflective. So if we do solar radiation management reflective out in the Pacific Ocean, for example, we may alter weather patterns in other places of the world. So there might be a problem. So, I mean, what I'm saying is that we could, if we put all these programs together, we could figure out what would be the best. And there might be there might be an approach to freezing the Arctic, and maybe, like I was thinking, there could be a three-pronged approach. Maybe we would want to go in there with, like this summer, like this winter is already almost gone, or halfway through. So by the time we get all organized and everything, it's going to be gone. But maybe this summer, they could enter a program where they start this, the cloud high, from like Harvard has this program for high altitude, carbonate, adding carbonate to the high altitudes and reducing the temperatures up in the Arctic. And then they could possibly add solar beads or the reflective glass beads on top of that, and then hit it with, and then when the ice freezes over, skims over this winter, then we start with the jet pumps, or not jet pumps, but the the seawater pumps, and we can make ships. There's a bunch of different ways of making those seawater pumps, and if we got on those as soon as possible. And so if you put all these different organizations together, and you just eliminate the finances and just say that's not going to be part of the equation, then all of a sudden your answers will become a lot easier to find. The solutions become a lot easier when you don't have to integrate all the finances. And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Adam. So actually, you raise a lot of good points, and the purpose of the agenda is actually to address all these in a structured way. We actually have a plan we'd like to unveil for getting all these things done. So what I'd like to propose, Adam, is let's just listen to what we have to present about collective intelligence and the integrated proposal. And then if there's something missing from there, please then jump in and say, hey, that was all great, but you forgot this one piece, rather than assuming that we don't have a plan and just kind of, well, what about this and this and this? I just want to invite you to just listen to what we have to share about that. And then, if there's anything missing, please jump in. Is that fair, Adam?
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Evan's got his hand raised. Take it away, Evan, and then we'll get to the first point in the agenda.
Thanks. I'd actually rather just hear the agenda right away.
Okay, great. So I read through the agenda. Now let's jump into the first point, which is a concise overview and update on collective intelligence, the key to making SRM happen at a planetary scale so that we cool our planet in time to save life on Earth. All right, so let's stand up for this. I want to invite everyone to stand up for a minute. Do a little dance. Talk about collective intelligence. Get down tonight. Get down tonight. Do a little dance. Talk about collective intelligence. Get down tonight. Get down tonight. All right. Even Fred's dancing. That's a good sign. Ray, good stuff. Yeah, Benjamin, that's what I'm talking about. Evan, I can even see Adam dancing behind the non-camera there. That's beautiful. All right. So, overview and update on collective intelligence. So,
Ann says, my dogs are dancing too.
I love it. Woo! All right. And then we got a couple of comments that we'll read in a minute, but we're going to get to agenda item number 1 right now, and then we'll read some of the comments. So collective intelligence. So there's really kind of 2 big parts of it, I'd say. One is the conversational part, and the other is the solution, like designed, modeled solution part of it, which emerges from the conversations. But conversations precede that part, actual designed and modeled and implemented solutions. So let's just basically separate it into the conversational domain and the solution domain. But they're not separate, because in the conversational domain, we talk about solutions. In the solution domain, we design, model, and implement the solutions. And there's really a rich dialectic between the two. It's not like we have the conversation, then we're done with that, and then we just do solutions. No, conversations are ongoing. Solution design, modeling, and implementation are ongoing, and both are ongoing simultaneously is the vision, the idea. But let's first talk about the conversational domain, because that's going to empower everything else, the solution domain specifically. Okay, so for the conversational domain, this is a conversation that we're all having right now on a Zoom video conference. This will be transcribed, and that transcript is a really powerful thing, and we'll talk a lot about that. But first, to paint the big picture, imagine that we have, say, 1% of humanity, 76 million people, all participating in millions of different conversations simultaneously. And when I say simultaneously, just like this meeting is one that meets every Tuesday, there will be other meetings that will be happening on a monthly basis, others on a daily basis, and others that will literally never end. They're like just so hot and urgent that they'll just be continuous. Yes, certain people will drop off so they can go to sleep or go to work or whatever. Other people will jump in. But the sun will never set on certain conversations. I would argue that SRM is one of those conversations upon which the sun should never set. Likewise with collective intelligence, likewise with veganism, etc. And each of those big three topics, of course, bifurcates, not bifurcates, but bifurcates into n different subtopics, where n could be a very, very large number, or a small number, but then each of those small number of subtopics bifurcates into another large or small number, et cetera, et cetera. So we have the concept of a taxonomy. And I referenced the trees behind Ray. Those trees are kind of metaphors for a taxonomy, where you have like one big topic being the trunk, and then the branches are subtopics. The sub-branches that emanate off of those are sub-subtopics, and so on, all the way down to leaf node topics. Think of like a head of broccoli, right? That's constantly growing. These taxonomies will never stop growing. They'll never stop evolving. So just like you see a bunch of trees behind Ray, thank you, Ray, there will be a whole forest of taxonomies. Three of the big ones will be SRM, collective intelligence, and veganism. And there can be several trees or many trees for each of those topics in turn. So no single taxonomy, but rather a forest of taxonomies. And we actually have a name for that. We call it a wixonomy, a concept I developed when I was at Microsoft, which is a mashup between wiki and taxonomy, right? So that anyone from the community can bust out with a new taxonomy, right? Which could be redundant with others. No problem there, right? Hey, we cover that over here. That's fine. And this is a different view, a different perspective, whether on a given topic or on the whole of all topics or anything in between. So we have this idea of a forest of taxonomies, a wixonomy of topics. And so whenever we start a conversation, it could either be on one topic or a mashup of several topics, etc. You get the idea. This social club is a mashup of several topics, right? Three of the big ones that are recurring themes are collective intelligence, veganism, and SRM, but others are fair game as well. This is kind of a big sort of catch-all conversation about transforming life on Earth. So now imagine that these 76 million people, right, the 1% of humanity that is most committed, most awake, most engaged, and most willing to jump on the court and be a part of this conversation with the rest of humanity, or the rest of the 76 million people, as the case may be, the rest of the 1%. Imagine that these 76 million people are participating in millions of conversations that are happening in parallel. And again, when I say in parallel, they could be once a month, once a week, ongoing, daily. So regardless of frequency, these are conversations that are happening in parallel. And new conversations start all the time, and some conversations stop, right? If there's nothing more to say about them. But regardless, all of these conversations where the participants choose to make it public, just like, you know, we all had to agree to record and transcribe this conversation and make it public, all of those that are public, their transcripts become part of a growing database of transcription of conversations. Now, that's actually very, very interesting and powerful for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the following. Let's say I jump in to this. I just found out about this community. I am member number 76,000,001, right? I found out about it. I said, wow, this is super cool. There's 76 million people talking about all these great things. I want to be a part of it. I jump in. and I say, wow, there's millions of conversations going on, far too many for me to, keep track of. Let me do a search and see who is talking right now about SRM mirrors floating in the ocean. Mirrors floating in the ocean, a concept developed by Dr. Ye Tao at Harvard, one of our colleagues, is a really cool concept. Let's say I just wanted to find out about who's talking about that. So I type in these keywords, and a search is done on all of the text of all the transcripts of all the conversations. And I can see which conversations talk about this combination of topics. Again, SRM, oceans, floating mirrors. And of those, which are happening right now. I want to jump in and talk right now about this. And so I might find that there's 17 different conversations happening right now about floating mirrors in the ocean as part of SRM. And I jump in and I say, hey, I'm Jamin, and I'd like to join this conversation. Now, depending on, and now I'm kind of overlaying different topics, but just to give a rich overview of collective intelligence. So I want to overlay the concept of a social network, right? Where now I've joined this population of 76 million people in these conversations, and I have a profile. And in that profile, I can specify, who I am, my background, et cetera, et cetera. And there are certain characteristics about me that will be generated by other people. They'll be able to basically say, just like an Airbnb review or an eBay review, is Jamin the kind of person who interrupts people, or does he listen, right? Is he a good, team player, conversationalist, or does he like one of these A-types who needs to dominate every conversation that he's in, stuff like that. So there will be all kinds of data that basically gives a holistic picture of who Jamin is and how, how well or not well he plays with other people. Based on my statistics, there might be a bar to cross to get into a given conversation. Look, people who clear this bar in terms of playing nice with other people can just get right in. Other people who don't clear the bar, they can still apply. They can request to be a part of a conversation, and then there can be some process to review that request. My point is simply this. There will be some criteria for determining whether a person can just jump into a conversation or not. But for the moment, let's just not go deeper into those weeds. Go for it.
I gotta jump in and
jump
say,
in.
I think that we're getting too into the specifics of how a platform for the development of collective intelligence might look for this conversation.
Sure. Why don't you take it over while I hit the bathroom? I'll be listening in.
Okay.
And just rock on.
Well, what I want to do is address the collective intelligence we have here with us today, and respect that we're all in different understandings of what we're here to do. And I guess just to reflect on my own personal experience, I've heard what Jamin's been talking about the past 5 minutes. I've heard this many times, so I personally am feeling like there's something more novel that needs to come out of this conversation. That being said, maybe not everyone participating has fully realized the power of this platform that Jamin's been describing, and certainly not everyone who watches this video will fully realize that. And it's incredibly important that we're able to synthesize what that platform could look like. But right now I'm really interested in getting into, with you guys, a discussion about how do we use the tools we already have, Zoom, Reddit, YouTube, social media, what have you, to propagate this
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
I mentioned this the other day. I did a ping to Ray on Vegan World 2026, and this was just a thought, but it might help us get going in the right direction. I said, why don't we all pitch in Vegan World 2026 and support every group in Vegan World 2026 to have a Zoom Pro license, so that we can all start, talking. And I don't know how that could relate directly to this, because the vegan thing is, and it all boils down to Silesh and of course how Ray sees it all working. And some people are very devoted to not conversing, but to studying, and I understand that. But I'm just trying to bring it up to how can we actually make a step and make something happen, and start getting like what you're talking about. We got to start somewhere, right? And that's all. So I just throw that in real quick. And I got to go to the bathroom too.
Well, just to follow on that, we have conversations.radicalorg that's ready to go. It just doesn't have videos. There aren't conversations on the platform right now. But my understanding is there's already calendar functionality ready there. And we can very easily include links to Google Docs that can be updated continuously by whatever groups. So maybe that's something we should consider getting the vegan community using, is the platform we already have.
Well, if I may, I'd love to. Hey, Uncle Frank, we're getting some static from you over there. I don't know if you can mute your microphone when you're not talking, or just be mindful of that. But
is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Thanks, Uncle Frank. Yeah. But look, there's a lot of specifics that we need to talk about, but I first wanted to cover the vision of collective intelligence, right? So that we can, actually, Uncle Frank, I'm just going to mute you, and if you could just send me a text message when you want to talk, then I'll unmute you. Okay? Is that okay?
That's good.
Okay,
good. That's good.
I'll mute you. Just send me a text when you want to talk. Okay, muting Uncle Frank.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's first talk about the vision of collective intelligence, and then the vision of how this can be applied to make SRM happen. And then I think it'll be appropriate to go more into very specifics of which platform to use and all that, right? Because I'm not sure. Anyway, that's what I want to do. So so back to it. Imagine we have these millions of conversations happening in parallel, all being transcribed, and people can then do a search for conversations that they want to participate in, and then an ability to join these conversations and participate. And then let's say I want to participate in a conversation on floating mirrors on SRM, but there are none. Nothing comes up in the search. I can start one and publish it and say, hey, I want to start this conversation, but I don't want to do it alone. If you're interested, join me. And then just like people can do searches for conversations that are currently happening, they can also subscribe and say, hey, if and when a conversation pops up that meets these criteria, let me know. Send me a notification so that I can join that conversation. So I want to use the analogy that these millions of conversations, let's say that any given moment there's 1 million conversations happening in parallel, happening right now through video conference. Imagine just metaphorically that each of these conversations is like a lane on a freeway. So instead of a 4-lane freeway, this would be a 1,000,000-lane freeway, right? And with each of us participating in a given conversation, and also subscribing to other conversations that we'd also really like to be in at any given moment. And so let's say I'm in on this conversation and I'm kind of feeling like maybe I don't have much more to contribute to this particular conversation, but these others that I've subscribed to, hey, whenever somebody starts talking about mirrors floating in the ocean, let me know. Boom. I might jump in, say, okay, hey everybody, it's been fun. I'm going to jump over to this conversation, follow my crumb trail, which is another social media device. Follow my crumb trail if you want to follow me. And so maybe I jump over to this other conversation and maybe, Ray and Evan follow me, right? And they say, yeah, we're going to go with Jamin over to that one because that's super hot. And we would also like to be a part of that. So imagine the metaphor is if there's a million conversations in flight, we can change lanes. We can jump from one conversation to another, like a Mexican jumping bean, right? So that's totally enabled. And likewise, I might be in some other conversation and I might say, oh my goodness, we need Dharmendra here. And so I might make a request. Hey, Dharmendra, please change lanes and come over to our lane. We need you now, right? And Dharmendra could evaluate whether he wants to do that or not. And likewise, so just imagine the beauty of having this million lane freeway with a million conversations happening in parallel, people being able to jump around. And so if there is a conversation happening and it's identified that, hey, we've hit some sort of a hurdle that we can't get beyond, right? There's some question that we can't answer, and we need to answer it in order to go forward. We can then put out a distress signal. Hey, we need help here, figuring out this one question. And then people who subscribe to a set of keywords that would map to that distress signal can then be notified. I might say, hey, I'm really good at PR, right? If somebody has a problem, that's PR related, they need to figure out how to get the message out there. Turns out I actually am really good at PR. Let me know and I'll see if I can help. So I could become this sort of like specialty PR firefighter, right? And when people put out a distress signal that's PR related, I can evaluate it and see, could I help there? Go ahead, Dharmendra, go for it.
Just a quick thought on the matter here is that, so we've got our SRM platform, which is primarily this. We've got our vegan platform. And what we don't have yet is one for the collective intelligence. So we need our third platform so that we have the three things so we can create the 10,000 things, i.e. the Tao created the one created the two created the three. That's Lao Tzu. So the bottom line is you're talking about all these things, and I agree with everything you're saying. That's when we get into the spread, but we need something to spread. And if we don't have three, it ain't going to spread. It always takes three to make something go into multi-dimensional. So my first step, because I'm a realist and I like first steps, is why haven't we created the third platform yet? We don't have a platform to get together and do collective intelligence. We've only got the other two so far. So what's stopping us from doing at least a first step? Because from there, then all of those are going to start interacting, I guarantee it, in some interesting way, because we'll have broad and collective intelligence, which is the platform. I sneak in with little things here and there, but I know that there's everybody else has got other things they'd like to add into it. Why aren't we opening that platform up yet? And if there's, it's a solution. I'm saying let's make a solution. Let's do it. Let's do it now. I mean, let's create a platform for that. We don't have that yet. We don't have the third pillar we're talking about all the time. We don't even have a Zoom conference for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear, the first two that we do have platforms are veganism, and the other, I assume you're referring to SRM.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Very good. Evan has something to say, and then Nolan. Go ahead, Evan.
So I would like to say that I see collective intelligence as existing and at like the unconscious and the conscious levels, is that we're collectively intelligent whether we are aware of it or not, and that perhaps our best bet at really getting the collective intelligence ball rolling outside of this group is to just sort of hermit crab or hijack the pre-existing structures that people have built for us, such as Facebook and Twitter, and reaching out to, I see this as just reaching out through the net that we have and across the vines to people on the internet, and just like really start trying to reach out and connect with people on the topic of collective intelligence and SRM. As like the really, really big one, like potentially just on YouTube, reaching out to content creators who make stuff around science and then presenting them with the information on SRM and seeing if they would be interested in making a video on SRM with their animation skills. And and what have you, or going through the political channels and reaching out to candidates who are vocal about the issues around global warming and sea level rise, because they might be quicker to adopt a solution because they want to look like they have a solution. And in the meantime, just using Zoom to come together as a group, just ourselves, and consciously engage in collective intelligence, because I think the collective intelligence is going on in the background all the time, and we need to consciously take advantage of how it's unconsciously affecting the world all the time. I mean, that's just how I see it.
And I think that's brilliant, but I see that to get to your step, we do need to create a consciously created collective intelligence Zoom group in order to start to strategize all of that in reality, because that's a major step right there that we can do through and get to what you're talking about. But we need to create a collective, a consciously intentional collective intelligence platform to start to brainstorm that kind of stuff. Because I have no idea how to do that unless we brainstorm it. I've got lots of friends on Facebook that are inclined to all kinds of different things, but until we can start bringing our collective intelligence into what is the most savvy, like we're already doing, the most savvy way of doing that. You know, I agree with all that, but we can actually create solutions for how to do that. So a guy like me can go, okay, now I have something to work with. Otherwise, I don't really, I mean, I agree with you, but I don't really see how to practically bring that across yet, unless we brainstorm it. And I love that term. That can be our way of saying how we figure solutions in our collective intelligence Zoom stuff.
Beautiful, beautiful. I want to read a comment, a couple comments from Adam and then Ray. Adam writes, why not put a think tank collective intelligence on the issue of bringing the people together? Can Radish start blogs on these issues? Good point. Go ahead.
Yeah, and a really simple form of a blog could literally just be a Google Doc. It's so easy. We have nothing else to set up but create the document and share a link and post it on somewhere on Radish. And it can be in like the description of a conversation series, which we have the ability to create on Radish right now. So I say that along the lines of, you know, what Dharmendra and what we've been talking about the past 5 minutes, I would like to make a general collective intelligence meeting that's like super high level, basically, and then have an SRM specific conversation that's, you know, once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks, kind of dependent on Guy McPherson and Yatao, because I think that their involvement is incredibly important and we need to get them routinely here and involved with everyone, and get commitment on their part to the collective intelligence. That's going to be huge. And then veganism is already going, which is awesome. We just need to get some of those meetings published and up on Radish and start formalizing the conversation structure a little bit so that people can easily join and see what's going on. And this is all stuff that we already have the capacity to do. We're not talking about like some distant platform. We can talk about the distant platform. That can be one conversation that we set up in a series. But I think the issue we're running into right now is like this social club is turning into just a general kind of talk about everything, and we're not really sure where to go. So yeah.
No, so the social club has served its purpose and got us to this point where we can now take what once the social club, and now we got an SRM platform, a vegan platform, and now a collective intelligence platform. Let's just take it to the next step.
Yeah.
We can dissolve the old thing if that's just, because that's what a social club is. You just come and talk about anything. But if we're clear now about what we're talking about, why are we wasting time with just talking about anything?
Yeah.
That's wasting time.
Well, my idea is we could keep the social club around as a entry point for newcomers and keep it very casual, and like not go into details of any of these topics, but basically just use it as like a more relaxed, we're just hanging out, getting to know some new people, and maybe it's not like a 4 or 5 hour conversation, it's like a shorter thing, and then we do the intense stuff in these more specific meetings.
Right, like a welcome center themed sort of platform. Yeah, that's a really good way to do it. That's an excellent way to do it.
Love it. Love it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let me read Ray's comment. Many people may be intimidated or cautious of an infinitely documented network of global conversations that are searchable and indexed by an artificial intelligence. No, Ray, you're muted. You're muted, Ray. Go ahead. Jump in. I'll let Ray speak for himself.
No, I was mouthing the words along with you.
Oh, beautiful. Love it. Love it. Okay, so for the hearing impaired, just look at Ray's lips, or read the chat window. Anyway, and he writes, this isn't my typical stance, but I do recognize that everything I say can be used against me at some unforeseen dystopia where I'm swept into a McCarthyism-style witch hunt. Many will be familiar with how this powerful technology is used against us to analyze us. It's the foundation of Skynet, of the Terminator narrative, and our AI overlords of the Matrix. A less sci-fi version is TV's A Person of Interest. We need to separate ourselves from these common narratives and subconscious resistance. Ultimately, it's a tool that's being used against us by Big Brother. We can either use it ourselves or ignore it. Ignoring it is the equivalent of fighting unarmed. I'm typing the question because I'm not sure if it fits into this conversation. It totally fits into this conversation. Let me just read your next comment. There is also security issues. Agents of the status quo will track us and plot disruption or install agent provocateurs. You did mention an accumulative profile per person that might address the anonymity of global thought. So, really good points. And, what the question really boils down to is, as an individual, am I willing to put myself out there in public, speak publicly, have what I say be transcribed and published on the web for everyone to see, CIA, NSA, and everyone else, right? That's the fundamental question. And the collective intelligence, as we're formulating it here, depends on that, right? Depends on people like us being willing to jump out there. Not everyone is willing to jump out there. And so when I basically did the math on this very question myself, I came to the conclusion that I want to be one of the firefighters who runs into the burning building in this very public and exposed way, exposing myself to flames, to carbon monoxide, to heat, to whatever, falling rafters, whatever. I simply choose to do that. I choose to be one of the ones who rushes into the burning building, fully cognizant that not everyone will choose to do that. Now, is it but let's take it to a higher level. Is it even a good idea to have such a platform, right? Given the risks. Well, I would pose to you that there are much greater risks out there. The risk of inaction, the risk of not running into the burning building. If nobody runs into the burning building, the kids in the attic are guaranteed to die, right? I'm speaking very metaphorically. The kids in the attic are all species, including our own. So I would rather take the risk of myself dying, being assassinated by the CIA or whoever for speaking out publicly in such a radical way. Heaven forbid someone like myself should want to save life on Earth. Let's kill him, right? All right, there may be people out there. But I would rather expose myself in that way than not rush into the burning building and expose humanity and all other species to certain death.
It's also worth considering that the people in the beginning of this that are going to be interacting with the platform and watching us, that's a certain segment of the population. It's not like we're going to instantaneously get the whole world paying attention to us. And in my mind, the people that we're going to get the attention of, we don't need to be worried about basically what they're going to do with the videos of us. At least in the beginning, we're a small operation. And I think we're attracting the right kinds of people. So I'm personally kind of like putting off that concern until we get into like some more serious conversation about building something else that doesn't exist yet. And in the meantime, my attitude about it is basically just, fuck it, I don't care. I'll publish all of this. It's not like, what is anybody going to do? And who's even watching it? At this point, not very many people, and they're not going to do anything. So,
right. And may I jump in real quick, Noah? Were you done? Yeah. I don't want to interrupt you. The thing is, that's why I'm pushing so much this thing about the vegan synergy meditation and accelerated collective evolution, because by the time it reaches the stage you're talking about, Ray, there could be several hundred or several thousand of us that are totally collectively attuned. And that's a force that's never been unleashed on this planet. We have no idea what kind of impact that's going to have against all the things you're talking about. The way it's handled may be very different. We're not going to be a group of people that are just going to get squashed by the powers that be, because we're not going to be that group of people that those powers that be think we are. We're going to have a transformed consciousness. That's at least my input and my point in all this. And that's why I'm doing these meditations and stuff. They may not seem like much in the beginning, but at a certain point when you click into it, you're going to see for yourself where that's coming from and be able to tap into it and start utilizing it. And I can't wait until a whole group of us can do that, because it's going to be something that's just there. The powers that be will have absolutely no idea what to do with it, because it's going to be coming at them from a place they have no idea where it's coming from. They can only handle what they're aware of and what they control and what they manipulate. What's outside of that system, it's easy for them to squash it, because it's usually only one individual here or a small group of people that are unorganized. We're creating a very organized collective super consciousness that is like I say, it's and the bigger picture is opening up and supporting that now, or it wouldn't be happening. I wouldn't even be here doing this work if because I'm attuned with spirit, and spirit doesn't let anything out until it's time. When it comes to the real stuff, when it comes to crap, you can do anything you want. You can go against the river and push it any way you want. That's the world we live in. But that's not the world we're going to create. That's not the world that we're creating here. So I just wanted to throw that in, because, and that's why I'm pushing so hard what I'm pushing in what I'm doing, because that's to address this. I'm so aware of this. This is where I come. This is the stuff I've studied growing up, and what I'm absolute anti-agent of. That. So aware of that.
One of the things that Sailesh Rao says about the new system that he wants to build, the system that'll be more attractive than the current system, making it obsolete, is that it will be transparent to, we will have transparency with the powers that are governed, and we'll have personal privacy. It's the reverse of what we have right now. So bringing up these issues of transparency and having the bravery to be transparent right now. We're asking, is it okay if we record these meetings? And people are either okay with it or they're not. They're starting to recognize these are where these discussions are going to remain as part of the public knowledge for all time, for good or for bad. And we just have to be confident that it is for the good. I brought it up because, when you talk about AI governing huge amounts of data, usually it's brought up in science fiction as something extremely bad. So there's, and I mentioned, do we use this technology, or do we say this is a bad technology and we don't engage with it? Or is that engaging with the public unarmed? As we have this tool, we should use it.
Yeah, and real quick, and I think we should use anything we want to use, because we're going to use it differently than anybody else does. In our hands, it's going to be a different tool. And real quick, I know you're a lot, this thing about presencing, and you're bringing it up a lot. And I am aware a little bit of the presencing thing that you introduced in some of the exercises you want to introduce, I think they're going to come in at relevant points and be useful to what we're doing. And and I think the Presencing Institute, I don't really know enough about it. You've introduced this to us a little bit, but I'm coming from a different place than that. And I mean, I mean, as far as the Presencing Institute, I respect what you may have to bring to the equation once you become more aware of what's happening in terms of the higher consciousness stuff that I'm bringing through. And I think just being a little bit patient and going and just hanging in there with what we're doing here with that, especially a lot with what I'm doing, you'll learn. It's very deep stuff. It's not going to come right away. It's not something you're just going to pick up like that. It's not something you can just read about and understand. You have to immerse yourself into it. It took me years to understand it, but well, I only had go ahead.
I'm not actually questioning my understanding of what it is that we're attempting to do. What I am questioning is that with the work that I have done through the Presencing Institute before and what it is that they are doing, I feel like they are doing already what we are talking about.
They may be, but for different reasons. They may be, but for different reasons.
No, they're trying to establish Society 4.0. They are saying that we are completely breaking down and we have to use our collective selves.
Yeah, right.
And they use mindfulness and art. And so my thing here is, as we get into talking about it, I'm like, there's a very large group that has been studying all the dimensions that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And they have been studying it for more than a decade. I mean, I did my training in 2007. That was the second full training. 2006 was the first, but they had done a lot of work before that. And so my question isn't, I mean, I absolutely, totally agree that we need to do this. I'm wondering about us connecting with some other people. Now, they have been using it mostly in Europe and Africa, even though it comes out of MIT, because honestly, I don't think that the US is ready for it, hasn't been as ready for it as other people, as other places, in part because it depends so much on mindfulness and meditation and tapping into the wisdom of the body and the collective wisdom of our physical beings.
Yeah, all those things are included, and it gets so much bigger as it goes deeper in. And I'd be happy, Anne, I'd be happy to invite them into this conversation, any of them that are the creators of what you're talking about. Get them to come here then if you think it's relevant. I'm not out there looking for them, or I'm not out there looking for anybody. I got it. I know in my being, you know, what sources and where to come from with it. I'm just going to spread it here. If they want to come here, you think you can talk them into coming here, they're invited. Have them come. It's cool. But I don't need anybody else's stuff. If they got something useful, I'll use it. And if you want to bring something in that's useful, I'm not going to stop you because I know you got a lot of useful stuff to share. But as far as an organization and blah, 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 if we get to that point where we're big enough and they take a notice of us and say, what are these guys doing? Maybe we can share stuff. At this point, I don't see them knocking on our door. And I'm just, you know, it's great, but diverting a lot of energy in that direction unless you can bring some of them to this conversation and get them into here and get them to meet us. And I would love to have a conversation with some of these people to see if they are who you say they are. I don't know because I haven't met any of them other than you, and you're pretty right on and pretty grounded and pretty real. And if it's already happened in other countries, that's great too. I'm bringing it here to America already. It's in America now. It started. This is it. This is what's happening as far as being in America. You know, I don't know about the other countries and why they're not doing it there. I understand what you say about it. But I'm just saying, invite them into this conversation then, is what I'm saying. I don't need to go out and chase anybody. I'm not going to. I already got it. I don't need to find it out there. They may have a lot of good stuff. If we can get that into here and it helps us, I'm all for it. But in the meantime, you know, it's already started. It's already growing. And all of us are going to get really good at it as we open it up. And we're going to create it as we need to with what tools we're bringing into it. And these guys you're talking about may have done a lot more somewhere else, though. I mean, I would love to see some of them here. If it's really everything you're saying, they would recognize that and want to come into this. I would recognize it in an instant if I saw one of these people and they had the kind of connection to source and all that that's going on here. I'd say, come on in. And they'd recognize it too. Just like when I met Jamin, there was something there that connected between us. And it's just been opening ever since. I'm done. Go ahead. No.
Well, I'd like to take a second and recognize a very real issue that we're confronting here, which is the existence of all these other groups around various topics that are disconnected from each other. And I think it is of the utmost importance that we take responsibility for uniting groups.
Hell yes.
And there's so many that we could spend the next like 8 hours in this conversation just talking about a bunch of different groups and what they've been doing and how should we reach out to them and what's the best way of integrating with them, which is why we desperately need to fractal off into some more specific conversations so that we can have an SRM group that's just focused on reaching out to these other organizations working on SRM and solutions to climate change in general. Because we could have some seriously intense conversations about that and start reaching out to people and making connections. But it doesn't seem like this is the place to do that. But it seems like that's the next step, is how I'm thinking.
Yeah, we definitely want to invite everyone to participate. And look, until all these groups are together and connected and forming this giant network, not necessarily all working on the same platform, but at least connects the platforms so that we have a systematic way of connecting to these other groups. Until this big connectivity happens, it hasn't happened, right? We're talking about something that hasn't happened, and here we're talking about co-creating that thing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Does that address?
And I guess what I want to say too, Ann, because I do totally respect you and I totally respect what you're trying to introduce, but I want to sell us. I don't want to sell somebody else.
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
That's
I
just
don't care who gets sold. I care that the planet gets saved.
right. And
So,
that's
I mean,
exactly.
I hear what everyone is saying. I will back off.
Well, or invite them in, talk to some of them about what you're doing and experiencing here. If it's touching you, and say, there's guys over here that got something really cool over here where we, both of us, the Presencing Institute and us, could grow from it. I mean, why back off? I'm just saying, bring it together, make it come together.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Invite it in. If you feel that strongly about it, I'm absolutely open person. I'm so strongly about all this too. I just want to see it work and move forward.
Right. Okay.
To quote a great American president, I say, bring it on.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to read a comment from Adam. Why doesn't Radish open blogs where people can either enter by internet or call in and add their part verbally or by text, knowing that RCI will put their thoughts into a database about the blog? Then RCI could do a spreadsheet that totaled answers and thoughts, etc. Then let people know that this is the place where they can speak their mind. Governments, etc. would be interested in this data. Adam, I totally hear you. One of my concerns is that this data set that you're talking about building is going to get ridiculous to manage very fast. Like with this amount of people we have now, I think an easy next step for us is fleshing out profiles. We can just have a Google Doc for now. It's just like it's just a list in alphabetical order of all of us, and then we can do our like little personal like autobiographies. Basically, we could provide links to you know, if we have some web, like Adam, you can provide a link to your website, and like plug it a little bit there, so that that kind of acts as this working data set for newcomers to help assimilate them in the collective intelligence that is here. And then we'll use what we're doing right now to basically.
Hey, Nolan.
Yeah.
So you know, if it gets too complex, why not have specific questions?
Angie Torres.
Darminder, you might want to mute.
Today, but she was over at the DC Center.
Hey, Darminder, you might want to mute, please.
They were testing it out.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, if you had like on each blog and you had specific questions that you had answered, how would you feel about this? You know, yes, no, or 1 to 5. You know, least excited, most excited, you know, and had a series of questions that could be plugged into a spreadsheet type of program, so that and then that program could be, you know, manipulated to develop and to give certain answers, different kinds of answers. I mean, I don't know that we have an internet place like this. And RCI could, so somebody could call in and answer, and maybe, I don't know, maybe RCI or, you know, RCI could answer the questions on the spreadsheet by what they said, or ask them and just have them verbally answer it. I'm not sure, but I don't know if there's any programs like this on the internet, but it seems like that might be a good way to go.
Well,
real quick, I'm just going to say goodbye and see you at the vegan meeting. I got to go. Take care, everybody.
All right. Great to see you, Dharmendra. We'll see you on the vegan meeting.
Yep.
All right. See you later.
Bye. Bye.
Well,
one thing that Anne mentioned was that there is a different kind of attitude in, well, there's essentially the United States and everybody else. The United States is such an important, you know, front in the shaping of thought and activity, because it represents a lot of the resistance and the heart of the corporatocracy that blocks so much progress. But it is important to see where those successes have taken place, and because they've germinated in a place that doesn't have things like the American dream, you know, this concept that seems very nice in the and a lot of people can share it with very good intentions, but ultimately it results in a system where some people are privileged and keep getting more privileged, and other people are less privileged and keep getting less privileged. I constantly say that we have to change the consumption of the United States, because that's where everybody looks. And we've got a population of middle-class people that are growing faster than the overall population of the world. And they are going to express their middle-classedness based on how Americans consume. So we need to rewrite that. So much, it amplifies the importance of what happens in the United States. But we have to be able to look and see where things are happening elsewhere in the world. I tell people that Germany has decided that all their federal functions are vegan, are plant-based, are low emissions, and they've made that a rule across the federal government, that their catering is vegan. Most people in the United States aren't aware of that, because we're just so far away from making those kind of decisions.
Before I check out, I have a question. There's the vegan meeting, and I don't know what other meetings exist at this point, but I would be happy to be a fly on the wall. If I don't have anything to contribute, then I don't need to say anything, but I would like to hear what's going on in the direction that the groups are going in. That way, you know, if I feel there's a point at which I can effectively contribute, then I know what's going on. So with that in mind, yeah. So when is the vegan meeting, or how am I gonna, Jamin, are you gonna take it upon yourself to alert me?
Yes. I'll do it, Fred. I've got your email address here.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're going to add you to the mailing list for the vegan meeting from this point forward. So you will.
Okay. Are there other groups that are in place? There's a vegan meeting and there's an SRM meeting, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So you'll let me know when those are.
Mm-hmm.
There are other meetings through the Vegan World 2026. There's a meeting about education and parenting coming up on Friday, if anybody wants to attend that. We're looking at radical approaches to education that may include radical homeschooling as part of the new system, or like a more of, a village raises the child rather than the institutions that we've created and are continuing to fail us.
Well, are you going to send out an email or something to tell me what time? And
Sure. Frank, are you in the base camp for Vegan World 2026?
No, I'm not.
I can add you. I'll send you an invitation. I can see your email there.
That would be great. Okay, so everybody, good meeting. And thank you. And Jamin, I'll talk to you later.
Bye, Fred.
Hey, Fred, real quick before you go. I think this week we should, Jamin and I will dive into the conversations.radish.org, which is going to help us facilitate these conversations. So you could just go there and see all the conversations that are happening and see when the next one is. So what I want to do is at least by the next social club, meet with everyone here today and go through instructing people on how to start conversations on that platform. So like Ray, with these other groups you're involved in, you could help them start a conversation on the platform, which really just involves a title and like a description, and you can set up a schedule if you want. And then all you do is paste links to YouTube videos, and then those videos will be chained together. So it's pretty simple to use, but I think it'd be worth it for all of us to get together and just walk through that at some point. Because once we start using that, we're not going to have this problem you're identifying, Fred. We need to eliminate that. So
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind that I'm not as technologically savvy as you are, so that's why I ask these questions.
Yeah,
okay.
That's actually why we created conversations.radish.org for the non-tech savvy to be able to just see the conversations that are on the calendar. So we need to get these conversations onto the calendar, and I think what Nolan's proposing is that we all get together to make that happen, basically.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, adios.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah.
See you soon. See you at 3 o'clock today for the vegan meeting. 3 p.m. today.
Oh my God. Okay, in 1 hour.
In 1 hour. The sun never sets.
Okay, so now is it going to be a continuation of this, or do I have to dial another number?
You have to dial another number. So look out.
And you're going to let me know what that number is? You're going to send out an email?
We're going to send it out via email. Correct.
Okay, great. I'll try to be there. All right, guys.
Remember what Yoda said. Don't try. Do. Do. Try not. Do. Okay.
Goodbye. See you. Okay.
We have Kenny, the creator.
Oh my goodness.
Join us.
The creator is here.
Who is that?
Dude, we've been praying to you all along. Thanks for showing up. Anyway, feel free to jump in, Kenny. We'd love to hear from you.
This is Ann. Excuse me. I need to step off because I gotta, feed the dogs and get them out and get ready for the 6 o'clock call. So I'm gonna step off here and I'll be back on at 6 o'clock. Take care, guys.
Bye, and we're going to jump off too.
Yeah,
We'll be back.
6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific for those of you on the West Coast. Same.
Right. Sorry about that. Right.
Oh, no problem.
Back Pacific time. See you in a bit.
Thanks, Ann. See you in a bit.
Good to see everybody. We'll be back for the VCI meeting in a little bit.
Beautiful. And you're setting that one up, Benjamin?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want me to host that one too?
Yeah. Why don't you host that one? And then just send us the link as soon as you can so we can propagate it to our email lists. And I want to make sure Gandalf is on there too. So if we could hear from Gandalf, that would be great.
I get it.
This one's Zeke.
This one's Zeke.
Zeke, well, how many cats do you have?
Just the two.
Okay, very good. So yeah, Zeke, please bring Gandalf. Beautiful. What an awesome meeting today, you guys.
Yeah.
What a freaking awesome meeting. I mean, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're making it happen.
It's moving.
It's moving. It is so moving. Yeah, and the action item really, building on what Nolan said, we got to get together, use the Conversations platform so that all these conversations are exposed and on a single platform, on a single calendar, so that everyone can see them all and pick and choose which ones they want to participate in. And we just need to have the discipline to schedule them, and then get more and more of us into the business of scheduling their own, posting the links, etc. And that's how this thing is going to grow. That's how the head of broccoli is going to grow. The forest of conversations.
Yeah. And then there will be a very easy way for people to still engage with the conversations that are happening without feeling like they have to be at every single meeting on every topic or whatever, because that's going to become overwhelming very quickly. So yeah, people will be able to watch what they want to watch and kind of see the progressions of conversations, even if they're not directly a part of them, which is going to be very powerful. So we got to get on that.
Hey, Jamin, I sent you the link. Do you not get notifications for Basecamp collective intelligence stuff?
I haven't actually logged into Basecamp since I was at the conference in Arizona, so I need to do that.
Gotcha. I sent the link out this morning, so you would have gotten a notification in your email about that. But if you didn't, then you probably have to change some settings within the collective intelligence study group.
Oh,
yeah, everybody's either getting too much emails or no emails at all. So I've also redirected your notice for the meeting today to everybody that was part of the Basecamp group, and said if you haven't got this notice beforehand, it's because you got your notifications turned off.
Cool. Yeah, I never know whether to post it in the main group as well, just because I don't want to throw another email into everybody's inbox.
Oh no, I got it. So yeah, I am getting the emails, so we're all good there. Thank you.
Cool. All right, I'm going to hop off. I'll see you guys in a little bit.
Awesome. See you in a bit.
All right.
Thanks, Benjamin.
See ya.
See you in a bit.
See ya.
I think Kenny was on last week.
I think so. Yeah.
I can't recall if we heard from him. But I suppose he might not have a camera or a mic. Well, it's just us, Kenny, and Adam now.
Alrighty. Adam, how you feeling, bro?
Oh, I feel great. Been working hard on this stuff and just keeping on going.
You know, I like the idea of the blog that you talked about, and I also really like the idea that for each conversation, we create a Reddit stream. You know, and this builds on kind of that hermit crab paradigm, you know, because Reddit's got the software totally down for, you know, basically threaded discussion forums, which are insanely valuable.
Yeah.
And, you know, enabling people to participate in these conversations asynchronously.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the big complement to these synchronous Zoom video conferences, which sometimes you can and sometimes you can't participate given your schedule.
And the threads on Reddit don't have to be text. They can actually be videos. People can be responding with embedded videos. You can just see the conversation kind of fractal off, which is pretty powerful.
And my point is that you can't. No one can sit down and watch all these things, but a computer could. So, but if you had specific questions, like, you know, somebody got onto, you know, a blog about free freezing the Arctic or about SRM or whatever. And so they answer the questions and then give them a place to provide more questions. Say, you know, to suggest more questions, and pretty soon you would have a long, detailed list of questions, and you would also have emails that, as you got towards the end of the period of time that you had set forth, you could email your whole clientele to tell them that we've added these questions and are wondering if anyone is interested in answering these questions. And so by the time you're done, you would have a whole bunch of, you'd have specific answers, and nobody, you know, everybody could see them on the spreadsheet rather than, you know, you could have percentages put out and say, well, so many of the people think this, and these are some good ideas here, and, you know, like that.
I like the idea of all of this being aggregated over time. I think that can be really powerful. And like I was saying earlier, I think it can very quickly become an overwhelming problem that we really need AI to help us with. The nice thing about Reddit.
Why do you think that? I mean, if you had a specific questions, I mean, you could put a think tank on it and then just come up with the questions for that, you know, that in for what people think about refreezing the Arctic. Then you would have a guide for how to go about that. I mean, if you posed a question and you said, well, if we had no other choice and we had to use high altitude carbonate, such as Harvard suggests, maybe put a link in there. How would you feel about it from 1 to 10? Would you be in favor of it or not in favor of it at all, or in the middle, or, you know, would you be open to at least a little bit of solar radiation management like that? I don't know. That's just one question. There could be all kinds of.
I think the kind of, would you say that calling it a polling system summarizes?
Yeah, that could be, yeah, kind of.
Because I think that's a really important part of collective intelligence, and particularly important once we have way more people involved, especially once we have people involved that aren't jumping right into conversation with us and are more watching us and like are commenting and asking questions that way. So for me right now, I personally feel like pushing more for intimate involvement just in these direct conversations. And then,
well, what if that was one of your questions? I mean, you start out, use it as a way of gathering people together, because one of your questions could be, you know, would you be willing to participate in a group study, you know, on stuff? Then you could, and then all of a sudden you'd have a list of a whole bunch of people be interested.
oh, I see. So we could kind of hit people up in this database, certain conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of brainstorming with you, but what if you know, I mean, even if you just had one and you said, you know, we want to form a group that investigates ways to solutions for saving our planet, and we have this list of solutions that we want to explore, and you know, and kind of open it up with one mass blog like that, and let it know, something that people would find if they're searching.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, because I think the best way for any of us to really dive into these solutions and digest them is in these conversations where we can respond to our questions spontaneously. But I totally hear you in that we need something that's just up there for people to find and interact with when we're not active in these conversations. I totally hear you there, and that's like absolutely, we got to figure that out. I personally am feeling like I need to take a break.
Me too.
So,
all right.
Is there anything else we want on this recording?
What did I say? No.
I think we're good.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I will talk to you later then.
Great to see you, Adam.
Yeah.
All right.
Same here, Jamin. Nolan.
And
I'll take care.
Thanks. You too. All right. And thanks everyone for watching. If you want to join these conversations, please sign up on radish.org. Sign up. Woo! And we'll apply. There's no cost associated with it. It's just a gift that we're giving to the world. So please accept our gift and give the gift of your participation to the world in helping us save life on Earth. Join us. Thanks, everybody.